All right, state's ready to proceed?
State's ready.
Defense is ready? Defendant is present. Any matter you need to bring up before we bring in the jury?
Judge, we do have a couple of witnesses ready to go, but for our next witness, because our light fingerprint technician is retired, someone else had to bring the file from the Miami-Dade Police Department. It'll take a couple of minutes to get that organized before a crime scene technician testifies about the processing of the car.
Okay.
All right, beyond that, in the not-too-distant future, witnesses will be testifying to photo lineups, so I provided that to James and Mark.
Does he need a written excuse? All right, we're ready. You got it, Orlando?
Yes, Judge, two lined up.
All right. Yeah, we're here. Oh, you need a couple minutes still for this first witness item?
No,
Oh, okay.
for the third.
Got it.
James, do you have a copy of the stipulation? Yeah. That's what you think we got. Okay, Judge, we may need to read this towards the end of the day. Do you want to read that, or do you want me to read that?
You can go ahead and read it. We're not going to introduce that as an exhibit, we're just going to read it, correct?
That's stipulation?
Yeah.
You can do that?
Yes, read the stipulation and mark that as the next court exhibit, J. Just to the record, the court exhibit what?
No, Judge.
No, I use the court exhibit prior, and that's it.
Oh, okay, so it's separate, just the court exhibit 1 for trial.
The trial.
Got it.
You want that now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Open the drawer sometime during one of the witnesses.
Do you need it empty or?
Doesn't matter. Okay. additional depositions for you.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you Ariel Boston, Mike Walsh, Bill Tamaz.
All right, so jury, please. All present and accounted for, Judge.
All right, proceed, please. Back to my jury. State before you next witness.
The state calls William Kinnebrew.
Sir, the following, please. You'll stand in front of the clerk and raise your right hand. He'll swear you in. You can have a seat at the microphone alongside the judge.
Do you swear or affirm that evidence you're about to give the truth and what you pronounce is truth?
I do. All right, see here, sir. There's a microphone, so we can all hear you. And when you're ready to roll, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is William Kinnebrew. I'm the Corporate Security Manager for the Hertz Corporation.
How long have you been with the Hertz Corporation?
I've been with them for 5 years.
And what is your current position there?
I'm a Corporate Security Manager.
What does a corporate security manager do?
I am in charge of getting assets back, doing internal and external investigations, and also I act as a custodian of records.
What type of business does Hertz engage in?
We rent cars.
As part of your responsibilities do your duties include any responsibility for records concerning the rental of vehicles from the various different Hertz locations?
Yes, I usually do testimony and give out documents that I certify that have come from our system and are valid Hertz documents.
When a vehicle is rented at a particular location, what type of paperwork is created?
There's two types. There's called a manual agreement, in which if you come in to rent a car and they have a multi-form piece of paper and they fill it out with the information we would need for a rental, or if you had a reservation, you come in, it's in the computer's working, and everything just goes to the computer, you sign, and the printer gives you a small sheet of paper to take with you in the rental, and that's the two types. So in the computer and manual, which is put into the computer afterwards.
In terms of the manual agreement that you described, is that form prepared at or near the time of the actual rental of the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Do the entries on the form reflect the information provided at the time of the rental agreement?
They should have been, yes, sir.
Are these forms completed in the regular course of business?
Yes, sir.
What happens to the rental agreement, the manual agreement itself, after it's prepared?
It's then at some point after that, copies are taken, sent off to the home office in Oklahoma, and people at the local office then take that information that's on the manual agreement and put it into the computer system.
How long does the company keep that information?
We keep it in the computer for most people like myself to get access to for 6 months. After 6 months, it goes into an archive.
And is that information kept in the ordinary and normal course of business?
Yes, sir, it is.
In March of 2010, were you served with a subpoena requiring the production of certain documents?
Yes, sir.
Specifically, were you required to produce all rental transaction records for November 20th, 2007 through the 30th for a black Toyota Highlander SUV?
Yes, sir.
Show me the defendant states 4X identification. I want you to take a look at State's Exhibit 4X for identification and tell me if you recognize it.
Yes, sir, I do.
How do you recognize it?
It's a copy of a Hearst manual agreement that was filled out on November 20th of 2007.
As you flip through the exhibit, is there only one agreement in that packet or are there others?
There's two manual agreements and then the computer-generated information from those manual agreements.
Are these the agreements and the documentation that you provided in response to the subpoena request that you testified about earlier?
Yes, sir, they are.
This time the state moves 4X into evidence.
No objection.
State's Exhibit Marked by Identification, 4X, now becomes State's Exhibit number 64.
If I could have you step down for a moment, Mr. Andrew. Okay, the first page that we're looking at, could you describe for the jury what that is?
That's the manual agreement that would be filled out by hand.
And who is the customer that filled out that agreement, renting the vehicle?
That looks like Rosemary Johnson.
And flipping to the second page, bear with me, I know it's a little small. Okay. Could you describe for the jury what this computer-generated printout is?
It's exactly what it is. It's the information that was put into the computer from the manual agreement, and it gives all the information facts on the rental of that day.
What was the date that this particular vehicle was rented?
It's November 20th of 2007 at 13:36 or 13:16, it's hard to see, which would be approximately a little bit after 1 p.m. that afternoon.
When was the vehicle returned, according to this record?
It was returned on November 27th at about 3:42 p.m.
In terms of the vehicle information that's listed on this record, does it show what kind of a vehicle it is?
Yes, it's got a vehicle code right here, our number, and then a vehicle code which tells us what type of vehicle that is. Highlander, I believe it was.
Would that be the H4LX that's
Yes.
listed here?
Yes.
Does it show the color of the vehicle as well?
Yes, it's color black. It's a 2007.
And what is the, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no.
What is the license tag on that vehicle?
It had a New Jersey tag of VN, and it looks
Let
like
me hand you the
S.
actual
Yes,
document.
if you don't mind.
Take a look at it.
It's VNS57G.
Looking at that same portion of the document, the vehicle information, is there a record kept of the mileage on the vehicle when it's rented?
Yes, sir. It showed that the mileage of the vehicle went out at 21,360, and when it returned, it came back with 22,628 miles.
So does that mean at the time the vehicle was rented by Miss Rosemary Johnson, the mileage was 21,360?
Yes, sir.
And at the time the vehicle was returned by her on the 27th, it was 22,628?
Yes, sir.
I'm showing you another record. Do your records reflect that the vehicle was rented out after it was returned by Ms. Johnson?
Yes, it did.
Okay, and when was it rented out?
It was rented out the same day, a couple hours after.
Okay. Now, I notice there's a return date here of 12/4/2007, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Does that mean that was the date the vehicle was actually returned?
It was, yes.
Now-
If you look below it, you'll see the date it was due, and then be up above it, the date it's returned is the actual date and time of return.
Okay. Who was the individual that appears to have entered into this rental agreement?
Lakeisha Andrews?
Now, there appears to be a note handwritten on the top of the document. Are you able to read that note?
I can read some of it. It said that it was rented on the 27th, which was the day we were talking about, a Hyundai Tucson Black, and there she returned the vehicle, and then I'm a little fuzzy on exactly what it says.
Okay. Does it appear to have a different transaction number listed next to it?
It looks like it. It looks like it could, but, and it looks like the Highlander is discussed here. It looks like it was rented and there's something to the Highlander. So I can't for sure tell you exactly where it says, because that one word is a little sketchy.
Of course. Now, looking at the following page. Are you familiar with this record of a
Yes.
separate transaction?
Yes.
Okay. And is this a record of And is that the same mileage that's indicated on Rosemary Johnson's agreement for when she returned the vehicle?
Yes, sir.
So it appears that the individual that rented the vehicle, based on the records that you have before you, right after Ms. Johnson rented it, was Mr. Mathurin. Is that right?
That's what it appears to be, yes, sir.
You may have a seat, sir. Mr. Kinderbrew, was the production of these documents that had been requested of you your only involvement in this case?
Yes, sir.
One moment. Mr. Kinderbrew, is it the practice and policy of Hertz to clean out the cars and clean them each time that they're rented by a new customer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and is that done every time the vehicle is rented out?
It is supposed to be.
Thank you. Nothing further at this time.
Ron, come on, Beth.
No questions.
All right. Kinneberg, you may be excused. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Big car next witness.
Alexia Anderson. First witness. First witness? Yeah. Is that this? On back to first
Ms. Anderson, follow me, please. You stand in front of the clerk and raise your right hand. He'll swear you in. You can have a seat at the seat alongside the judge.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, ma'am, if you'll have a seat over here. There's a microphone here on the one side. You can speak into that when talking to help the jury hear you. And when you're ready, Mr. Rubin, you may proceed. I don't know if you want to, we're going to need to use this at all?
Eventually,
Okay.
but I can move it out of the way for a moment.
Yeah, it's up to two jurors on the end. Let's see. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. All right, can you please introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
My name is Alexia Anderson.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to try to keep your voice up, okay?
Okay.
Maybe you could just try to keep it up without using the microphone, it'll turn out. Or else just move a little bit closer to it if you can, all right?
Okay.
What part of the state do you live in?
Fort Myers, Florida.
How far did you go in school?
I graduated.
Did you know a girl named Romaine Johnson?
Yes.
How do you know her?
She once one day at my brother.
Can everyone hear? No. Maybe it would be better if I walk over here so that you can lean more in the microphone, okay? So how did you know Romaine Johnson?
She once one day at my brother.
Can we hear? What was her mother's name?
Rosemary Johnson.
How old were you in November of 2007?
I was around 17 or 18.
And was Romaine older than you or younger than you?
No, she was younger.
Would Romaine's mother, Rosemary, sometimes do favors for Romaine's friends?
Yes.
What kind of favors would she sometimes do?
She would do anything with me, actually, like rent cars.
Were you ever with Romaine at a Hertz rental location in November of 2007 when her mother, Rosemary, rented a car?
Yes.
What kind of car was rented?
A black Toyota Highlander.
Just about.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat your answer again?
A
What
black
kind of,
Toyota Highlander.
were you at the dealership when it was rented?
Yes.
Did her mother come?
Yes.
Did anyone else that you know come to the rental location?
Hurricane Charles.
All right, who's Charles?
Charles Wallow.
And who's Eric?
Eric Rivera.
How did you know Eric Rivera?
I knew him from Pop Warner.
Pop Warner football?
Mm-hmm.
You have to answer yes or no.
Yes.
Okay, because an uh-huh comes out kind of, new, it can't be taken down by a court reporter properly, okay?
Okay.
All right, so do you see Eric Rivera in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point to him if you see him? All right. Please explain an article of clothing that he's wearing.
He's wearing a blue long sleeve shirt.
Could you point to him again, please? All right, and he's wearing what kind of shirt?
Long sleeve with blue with pants on.
You need to keep your voice up a little bit. Indicating for the record the defendant.
Okay.
Is he the person seated at the table to your left?
Yes.
Did you see how Charles Wardlow and Eric Rivera arrived at the dealership?
They came up in a white two-door car.
And whose white two-door car was it?
Yes.
Do you know if Eric Rivera saw the black Highlander?
That should cause speculation.
If I could have a little leeway, I think this will become apparent. Do you know if Eric Rivera saw the black Highlander?
Yes, they drove away.
Who drove away in the black Highlander?
Eric Rivera.
And who else was in the car?
Charles Water.
Who was actually driving the car?
Eric Rivera.
Did there come a time when police officers asked to meet with you?
Yes.
Was that at the Florida Department of Law Enforcement location in Fort Myers?
Yes.
Now, by the way, when they drove away from the dealership, what happened?
They made them bring it back.
Why was that?
Because they was underage to drive the little car.
What was the age, if you knew?
25.
25? I'm sorry, you have to answer out loud.
25, yes.
All right, but originally when it was driven off, who drove it?
Rosemary Johnson.
I beg your pardon?
Rosemary Johnson.
All right, is that at the end?
Well, when they made it, they'll bring it back.
Overall.
So we're gonna call police.
Okay, I need you to keep your voice up a little bit. Can the ladies and gentlemen of the jury hear? Okay, let's back up a little bit, and I need you to try to keep your voice up. Bring the microphone towards you a little bit, okay? Who first drove the car off the dealership area?
Eric Rivera.
How did Eric Rivera's white car leave the area?
My cousin drove it.
So we were talking about when you met with Florida Department of Law Enforcement agent. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And was I there as well at some point in time?
Yes.
Do you remember meeting privately with the FDLE agent?
Yes.
That was in Fort Myers?
Yes.
Did he show you some photographs and ask you whether you could recognize Charles Wardlow?
Yes.
Did he tell you who to point out?
No.
Did you recognize Charles Wardlow?
Yes.
Let me show you what has been marked as State Exhibit number 5D. Ask you if you recognize what's in this set of photographs. You have to answer yes or no.
Yes.
And is this a series of photographs that the agent at FDLE showed you?
Yes.
And were you able to recognize Charles?
Yes.
And how did you indicate on this photograph that you were able to recognize Charles?
I wrote his name and signed my name and date.
The state will move to offer State Exhibit number 5D in evidence.
No objection.
State Exhibit modified identification 5D now becomes State Exhibit number 65.
Is that your writing with the date on it?
Yes.
And did you circle the person that you knew as Charles?
Yes.
Did they also show you a series of photographs and ask you whether you recognized Eric Rivera?
Yes.
Did they tell you who to pick out?
No.
Did you know him?
Yes.
All right, let me show you what's been marked for identification purposes as State Exhibit number 5C.
Let me see that first.
Are these the photographs that were shown to you?
Yes.
And did you recognize Eric Rivera?
Yes.
And how did you indicate that on the series of photographs?
I wrote his name and I signed my name and date.
Did you circle the photograph?
Yes.
State moves to offer this into evidence as the next State Exhibit.
No objection.
State Exhibit modified identification 5C now becomes State Exhibit number 66.
That's all the questions I have at this time.
Cross-examine. Do you have any need for
No.
Elmo there? Hand it back to the clerk if you would. Thank you. And when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Ms. Anderson. Now, Miss Johnson, Miss Rosemary Johnson, was renting the car for you. Is that correct?
No.
And is your testimony you never asked Miss Johnson to rent the car for you?
No.
So you never asked Miss Johnson to get the car because you wanted to go to Orlando for the Classic?
No.
And is your testimony today that Eric Rivera was the one who drove the car from Hertz, correct?
Yes.
It's not your testimony that you were the one who drove the car from Hertz?
No.
And it's not your testimony that after you drove the car away from Hertz, the Hertz people had them to come back because you were underage?
I didn't drive the car away.
And you never told Ms. Johnson that you were going to pay for the rental car?
No.
Now, you claim that your cousin is the one who drove Eric's car away from Hertz. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Who was your cousin?
Demetrius Morris.
And how did Demetrius get to Hertz?
She was already there.
Why was Demetrius at Hertz?
I don't know why she was there.
So Eric had his own car, correct?
Yes.
And Eric and Charles came together,
Yes.
but Eric drove the rental car away.
Yes.
Who took the rental car back to Hertz?
They bought it back.
Who was there?
Him and Charles.
So it's not your testimony that you went to the school and got the car back from Charles?
No.
I got just a moment. Nothing, Dr. Judge.
No? All right. Anderson, you may be excused. Thank you. Date, card, next witness.
Your Honor, this is when we need a short few minutes to go over the recently brought in.
Okay. 5, 10? 10 minutes?
10 minutes should be
All
enough.
right. Let's take about a 10-minute break. Keep it to 10 minutes so we get our next witness situated and some documents together for that.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, close your tablets, leave them face down on your chair. Make sure you have all your personal belongings with you, and we'll meet you in 10 minutes at the other end. Yeah, if you want to, that's fine. The 4th floor.
All right, we're adjourned for a few minutes.
right there, you go downstairs. All rise. No, never mind. Okay, no, they just asked me. I think I know better than you, right? These are two officers from the West Coast. They just need to sign for the clerk that they were here, appearing for this court. They were unsubpoenaed. Okay. Would you sign it? Anywhere we were up in here, they asked you. And just put the title and put the part behind the form. Any questions? Bring it back to me.
I didn't say I wasn't.
All right. You make sure yourself off the pages are on. If you do want a break.
All right, seated, please. Please ready to proceed? Oh, good. You got the defenses ready?
Your Honor, this time the defense is requesting a court declarations and hearing regarding the last witness.
Regarding the last witness?
Yes. Ms. Anderson.
And defendant's question. Okay, tell me about it.
Well, Judge, Ms. Anderson was disclosed as a witness. However, there was no statement disclosed regarding Ms. Anderson's involvement in the rental of the vehicle. Ms. Anderson just testified that my client drove the vehicle away from the rental place, and he had in his possession that he returned it to Mr. Ward rather than the car being returned to her at school. This is materially different than a statement that was provided in discovery by the state from one Rosemary Johnson, who was also present for the rental of the vehicle. In that statement, we put a copy of the record that we just have to make on the statement supplied. That statement provided in discovery by the state of Florida indicates that my client dropped Mr. Wardlow off at the Hertz rental. Mr. Wardlow then took the car and drove away, and not Mr. Rivera, and then the car was returned to Ms. Anderson later, and then returned by her to Hertz. So it's materially different, much ups the involvement of my client. Now, Mr. Rubin even indicated in his questions, he said, you spoke about this issue at the FDLE, and he even indicated in his questions that I was present at some point. And she said, yes. So obviously, there was a conversation about this testimony. It was no surprise to the state that it would implicate Mr. Rivera. That was never disclosed to us. Now, the general rule under 3.220 is that oral, unrecorded statements, if there's no notes made, do not need to be disclosed to the other side. However, the exception to the rule comes from the case of Stacey v. Evans, Florida Supreme Court, October 5th, 2000, cited as 770 Southern 2nd, 1174. That case also cites to Jones v. State, 514 Southern 2nd, 432. That's 4th DCA 1987. In that case, and I'm citing, sorry, I'm looking on the left online here, citing from page 1180 of the Evans decision. So it says, several courts have determined, however, that the state must disclose to the defendant a witness's oral statement in circumstances where the statement materially alters a prior written or recorded statement previously provided by the state to the defendant. So that's what they've done here. They've failed to disclose it.
Let's break that sentence down, because that's talking about, is it not a previously recorded or written statement by the same witness?
No. No. That's addressed by the Niemeyer case from the 2nd DCA.
Okay.
Niemeyer versus State, 378 Southern 2nd, 818. That's 1979. In that case, medical examiner's report did not indicate the spinal cord was severed. And this is a material issue because the defense of self-defense, if the spinal cord had been severed, the defendant, Niemeyer, didn't have much of an argument there. It was not disclosed that the supervisor of the medical examiner was going to testify that there was evidence the spinal cord was severed during the altercation. So that case was overturned on the principle that if the defense had known that the supervisor was going to contradict the medical examiner's testimony, it materially altered the defense, and that was withheld from them. So the plain sentence, Judge, again, from the Evans case, the Florida Supreme Court says, The state must disclose to the defendant a witness's oral statement in circumstances where the oral statement materially alters a prior written or recorded statement provided by the state. It doesn't say by the same witness. It could if they wanted to, but that's not their holding. It's the issue of surprise that they're after, not the issue of it being the same witness.
I'm assuming that Ms. Anderson's deposition was not taken in the case?
No, Judge, but I did follow up a discovery pleading that I have a copy of March 30th, 2010, that says Alexia Anderson, Category A, photo identifications of Wardlow and Rivera and signed advisement of photographic identification procedure are attached, and CD statement is available for copy.
Judge, if I may, the only thing we were provided, we didn't get discovery directly from the state. We got discovery from prior counsel, and I would ask to make this a court exhibit. I have the detailed list of everything we were provided from previous counsel to this case. We were provided a copy of the photo sketches that she identified for six-pack lineups, but we were not given any indication that there was a written statement or a recorded statement that was made by Ms. Anderson. And if I could provide this for the record.
So was there a written or recorded statement taken of Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, Judge, the discovery pleading says the IDs are attached and CD statement is available for copy. Because unfortunately, and it is unfortunately, because it's a bit of a hassle for us, because of the cost of everything, our office charges for CD and DVD copies, and that's why they don't go out automatically anymore. You know, people were put on notice that they exist, and they were put on notice that it existed. And that's true of all of them.
Okay. We can bring in prior counsel, Judge, but we don't believe that there was notice that there is a CD that existed.
Well, here's the discovery pleading that, do you have the photo ID?
We have the actual hard copy of a photo ID, yes.
All right, well, the photo ID went out with the pleading that says, and we can make a copy of this, there should be one in the court
There should be
file.
one in the court file.
Beg your pardon?
There should be one in the court file. We'll make a copy of that. And during our next witness, James will find that in the court file, and we'll continue this hearing at our next break.
All right, Judge, can I have a second, put this away? Short time, it's a stack of papers.
Judge, what was the date of the, well, I'll wait till he gets back.
March 30th or 31st, must be March 30th, 2010. According to the then counsel, Clinton Pitts, Donovan Corker, Dwayne Crooks, Phil Reisenstein, Stephen Kramer, Reginald Mathis.
Judge, I have confidence in Mr. Kramer's file. I'll check with Mr. Kramer, and if it appears Mr. Kramer has it, then perhaps there was some loss in translation from trial counsel and we would withdraw it.
Okay.
Check with Mr. Kramer.
And I'll give copies so that James can look to find the file stamp copy of that exhibit as well, and we can readdress it and continue on with that Richardson inquiry. After you look at the jury, Ralph, we'll make
And Judge, also, not a contemporaneous objection. Her testimony was concluded by the time it came up.
It takes a little while to realize that, if you are sandbagged, which let's say we were able to see, but it takes a little while to research tonight at the case law, Judge, because I wasn't sure if the Richardson hearing was appropriate on an unrecorded statement. That's always an interesting issue, so I think it was raised properly after the witness.
I'm not going to deny it on the basis of untimeliness at this point, because there was certainly before the break in cross-examination a suggestion that that testimony came as a little bit of a surprise to the defense. So that's one of the impressions one can take from the cross-examination. Okay. And go line up right here. Just for James, we'll give the original back to Mr. Rivera for his file copy, and James will search our court file. Okay, well, we might not be able to finish it today. Okay. He's calling my phone. Okay. Okay. is there a statement, a sworn statement or a deposition of Rosemary Johnson that was taken in this case?
Yes.
Yes, Judge, and Rosemary Johnson gave an official sworn statement on December 11th of 2007, and her deposition was done on March 26th of 2010. And her daughter, Romaine Johnson, gave a sworn statement on December 11th, 2007.
If I remember correctly, Rosemary Johnson said she saw Eric Rivera at the first rental place.
He saw him drop off Wardlow to pick up the car, and he never got in the car or drove the car.
So they're inconsistent.
Yeah.
Okay. Correct in assuming our next witness is probably the technician Gilberto Tamez? No? Huh?
Almost correct.
Almost, okay.
Right. He'll be not too long.
Okay.
We're going to recall Technician Watkins.
All right, so here, please.
Morning. Welcome back. Anybody feel the need to swear in Mr. Watkins again?
No, sir.
All right, you're still under oath for your previous testimony, sir. Have a seat. And when you're ready, Mr. Bravo.
Good afternoon, welcome back. Good afternoon, thank you. Could you please state your name once again for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Kenyon Wayne Watkins.
Mr. Watkins, last time you were here, you discussed your investigation and processing of the crime scene for this homicide, is that correct?
That's correct.
In addition to that, did you have any other involvement in this case?
Yes, I did.
What was that?
I responded to Fort Myers to process a vehicle that was impounded.
What was the vehicle that you were delegated to process?
It was a 2007 Toyota Highlander SUV, black in color, I believe.
Showing the defense states 3I for identification. Mr. Watkins, I'm showing you states 3I for identification. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I did.
How do you recognize that?
And that's the vehicle that I photographed that afternoon.
And is it fairly inaccurate to depict what it looked like that afternoon?
Yes.
State moves 3I into evidence.
No objection.
It'll be admitted.
This is in modified identification 3I, now becomes exhibit number 67.
May we publish?
Yes.
Showing the defense for the record states 4Y and 4Z. Right. Take a look at State's Exhibits 4Y and 4Z for identification. You recognize those?
Yes.
How do you recognize them?
Again, this is the same vehicle. I photographed and processed that.
And it fairly and accurately depicts what the vehicle looked like?
That is, yes.
State moves 4Y and 4Z into evidence.
No objection.
It'll be admitted.
State's Exhibit marked by identification 4Y now becomes State's Exhibit number 68. State's Exhibit marked by identification 4Z now becomes State's Exhibit number 69.
May we publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Watkins, if you could please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what the tag number was on that vehicle?
VNS 57G.
What types of evidence were you looking for when you processed the vehicle? What steps did you take?
The vehicle was latent processed for fingerprints.
Let me stop you there for a minute. Describe for the jury or explain to them what latent processing is.
As I discussed yesterday, it's a mechanical method. We use black carbon powder, a fine powder with a fine brush. The area that we want to process for fingerprints is dusted. The actual dust adheres to the ridges, the detail from your fingers that are left on surfaces. And that develops the print, and then we place a piece of tape over that print, peel the piece of tape off and put it onto a white card or background so it contrasts the dark powder to the white background on the card so you can see the print.
What specific places within the vehicle did you try and get latents from?
Inside and out.
Okay. Showing the defense states 5I for identification. Can you look at states 5I for identification?
Yes, sir, right now.
Do you recognize them?
Yes, sir.
And where are they?
These are the latent lifts that I lifted that afternoon from that vehicle.
State moves 5I into evidence.
No objection.
It'll be admitted.
State's Exhibit marked by identification 5I now becomes State's Exhibit number 70.
How many different cards are in there? 4 cards?
4. Do you yourself personally conduct any examination of the latency lift to see if they're a match to any other latents or prints?
No, those were submitted to our ID section for a latent examiner to examine.
Now, did you have any information when you were processing the vehicle as to how many times it had been rented out from the date of the incident?
I don't know how many times, I just knew that it had been.
Objection, prosecutor, sir.
Sustained. Next question.
In addition to processing the car for latents, what other things did you look for?
I took DNA swabs from the vehicle.
What areas of the vehicle did you swab for DNA?
Door handles, anything that would have touched the steering wheel, gear shift lever, door handles.
How do you go about obtaining a DNA swab for analysis?
As I mentioned yesterday, it's a kit that we use with swabs and sterile solution, water solution. Those areas that we want to collect DNA sources from, we swab that area, and then those swabs are placed into a box, individual boxes, and the box is labeled where the actual swabs were taken from.
Showing the defense state 4M. Was in there. Mr. Watkins, take a look at states 4M and tell me if you recognize that.
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
This is the bag that I impounded the DNA swabs in. My name, initials, case number, and the prescription.
From the Black Highlander?
Correct.
This time the state moves 4M into evidence.
No objection.
Be admitted.
State's Exhibit modified identification 4M, now becomes State's Exhibit number 71.
Once you forward those DNA swabs to the lab, do you yourself participate personally at all in the analysis?
No. No.
What, if anything, did you find inside the actual vehicle itself?
There wasn't much. There was a manila envelope, a Hertz business card, and there was a Toyota manual in the glove box that I observed.
What did you do with these items?
Actually collected the envelope and the business card for latent identification, and then I removed the front and back cover of the manual from the that was in the glove box and submitted those for latent examination as well.
Now, when you say you impounded them and submitted them for latent examination, what does that mean?
They were actually physically placed into a bag and sealed and given to our latent section to a process which is a chemical processing for latents.
So for those particular items, you didn't employ the method you described earlier using the lift card?
Correct. That was done by our latent section.
Showing the defense state's exhibits. State's exhibits 3T and 4J for identification. Showing you state's exhibits 4J and 3T. You can take a look at those and tell me if you recognize them.
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize them?
These are the tray slips that I collected from the vehicle.
Referring to 4J?
Yes, 4J. Yes. 13 tray slips, and then 3T are the paper items that I submitted.
State moves 4J and 3T into evidence.
No objection.
So be admitted.
State's Exhibit modified identification 3T, now becomes State's Exhibit number 72. State's Exhibit modified identification 4J, now becomes State's Exhibit number 73.
Mr. Watkins, as you examined the vehicle, were you able to see if there was any sort of a GPS navigation system there?
There was.
Showing the defense states 5A. Take a look at states 5A and tell me if you recognize it.
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
This is the unit that was mounted on the dash of the vehicle that happened.
And is it fairly inaccurately depict what it looked like as you were processing the vehicle?
Yes, just like that.
State moves 5A into evidence.
No objection.
You'll be admitted.
State exhibit modified identification 5A, now becomes state exhibit number 74.
Can you publish? Mr. Watkins, did you make any efforts to try and activate the GPS system and see what addresses, if any, there were on there?
Yes, we did.
How did you do that?
Turned it on and then scrolled through the memory.
Showing the defense states 2R. Take a look at states 2R. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
This is the same GPS unit that we just were seeing in that picture.
And is it fairly inaccurate that you kept the unit turned on when you were scrolling through it?
Yes, the screen is on. Yes.
State moves 2R into evidence.
No objection.
You'll be admitted.
State exhibit modified identification 2R, now becomes state exhibit number 75.
Mr. Watkins, take a look at state 75. Could you read the second address, the second line that appears in the GPS system?
804 Xana Drive.
Will you publish it on it?
You may.
Now, the bottom address that appears to be highlighted in yellow, is that because you highlighted it, or it just automatically would keep the bottom one?
I must have, I don't know. I didn't do anything.
One moment, Your Honor. Nothing further at this time.
Cross-examination.
No questions.
All right. Sure, you may be excused again.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
State, call your next witness.
Over time,
Wilbur Tamez.
and do we have a card sitting up here or here? And the items from the card or which number, Mr.
It's similar to trace.
Sir, follow me. Stand in front of the court and raise your right hand. You will swear you will and see you all as a judge.
Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Sir, seek the air. There's a microphone in case you need it. Speak up so we can all hear you. And when you're ready to prove, you may proceed.
Yes, Judge.
Good afternoon. Could you please introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
I'm a retired Miami-Dade police officer, Layton examiner, as of 6 months ago. Prior to that, I was employed with the Miami-Dade Police Department.
Were you employed with the Miami-Dade Police Department in 2007, 2008?
I was.
In what capacity were you employed there?
I was there as a latent print examiner.
Were you a police officer who has arrest powers?
I was.
Did you work in a lab?
I did.
And what was your primary function in the lab?
My primary function in the lab is to receive and to evaluate latent prints that are found within the scene of a crime. We process certain items that are turned in by our crime scene individuals, and at the same time we evaluate latent prints that are picked up within the scene of crime.
How long were you with the Miami-Dade Police Department as a latent fingerprint examiner?
As a latent print examiner, I was there for approximately 30 years. Prior to that, I was a fingerprint examiner, which was 10 years prior to that.
All right, please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury and the judge your basic educational background to begin with.
Basic background was received some schooling at FIU, depending on criminal cases. Prior to that, I received my criminal A degree in Miami-Dade, also in criminal justice.
And please explain your education, training, and experience in the area of latent fingerprint identification.
The training that I received within the Miami-Dade section is ongoing. It never stops. The training is conducted within house, within the government agencies that also pertain to the study of latent prints. It's always ongoing, it never stops.
Well, did you have on-the-job training?
I did. It was on-the-job training. It's going nonstop.
Well, let's start with your beginning on-the-job training. You started as a fingerprint examiner?
Yes, I was there in December of '71 as a fingerprint examiner throughout the time that I did complete my 40 years within the Miami-Dade as a latent examiner.
And when you first started, did you work by yourself or under someone's supervision?
No, I was there under supervision as a latent examiner. Also, the same training came in as a fingerprint examiner.
And how long did you work under someone's supervision, roughly?
I would have to say the first 3 years that I was with the Latent Center, I had the supervisory personnel next to me.
And after that, did you work on your own?
Yes, primarily. The last 27 years that I was with there, I was a latent examiner that primarily worked out of the Midwest Doral districts.
So tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury and the judge some of the either classes, workshops that you've attended, seminars.
It varies per year. I might attend one class per year. Another year I might have 2 more in-house. It just varies throughout the year. I guess it depends on the amount of work that each examiner, excuse me, that is being handled at the same time. If you have the time to more or less attend these classes, you will. If not, it just depends on where you stand workload.
Well, provide the names of some of the courses or seminars that you've attended.
Well, there's some of the courses that I attend with the II conferences that are
And tell them what the initials stand for.
the Florida Division of Identification. It's primarily an organization that consists of latent examiners from the state of Florida that we exchange ideas, exchange work that we do. And primarily it's just something to keep up with the work, something to basically know of what's going on with the study of latent prints.
So is that a professional association?
It's a professional association that I've been associated with for the last 33 years.
Is that an association of individuals like yourself who are involved in the science of latent fingerprint identification?
That's correct. It's more or less, again, an organization that primarily has people to exchange ideas in that aspect.
And besides that, have you attended numerous other seminars and trainings in the area of techniques to process for latent fingerprints?
Again, it varies. I do attend classes on trying a regular basis. Again, depending on the workflow.
That's been over the years. Approximately how many such seminars and workshops have you attended in the last 30, 40 years roughly?
Gosh, I would have to say maybe within 20, 30 maybe that I can think of right now.
And are these all related to such topics as advanced palm print identification, advanced latent fingerprint techniques by the FBI? Did you attend that workshop or seminar?
Some of them, not all of them. Again, a lot of these courses are being offered locally, and again, that some of them are offered other places that just would be inconvenient for me to attend. But the ones that would be close by, those are the ones that I would take advantage of.
So have you attended numerous such workshops and seminars over the past 30, 40 years?
I have. Like I said, maybe within 15, 20 of them off by hand that I can think of.
Have you appeared in court previously to give testimony with regard to the identification of fingerprints and techniques involving processing for fingerprints and things of that kind?
I have.
Approximately how many times in Dade County?
I would have to say in the hundreds of times that I've been with Miami-Dade, maybe between 150, maybe 200 times would probably cover it. That would be in the county, the state, and the federal branches within Dade County.
So besides testifying in Dade County with regard to such matters, have you also testified in Broward, Palm Beach, and federal courts?
I have. I've attended in Broward, Palm Beach County. I think that's about it.
And you're retired now?
Yes, I have. Yes, I am rather. I've been retired for the last 6 months.
All right, and prior to your retirement, pretty much every week, every day, day in, day out, was it your job and your function to examine and process evidence for the presence or absence of fingerprint evidence?
Yes, you stand correct.
What is a known inked standard fingerprint?
A known ink standard fingerprint is the impressions of your fingerprints. The way that is done is you take the fingers of each individual and roll them on an ink slab. And at the time you start with the number 1 finger, the right thumbprint, and control it and do it with the right 10 finger and roll it, and you get your complete roll of the 7 prints.
All right, so in other words, when a person gives standard inked fingerprints, do you know who that person is?
Usually, it does have a name to it. At times, there's not. It's up to the individual to classify and determine who that is at that time.
Is this where a person's hand is taken and there's a card and there's print on it about the date and the name and things of that kind? They put down a thumb and a forefinger, the rest of the fingers onto a card?
That's correct. That's what is considered a regular fingerprint card, ink impression.
So is that a known ink standard fingerprint?
That's a regular inked fingerprint card, correct.
And what is a latent fingerprint?
A latent fingerprint is basically a print that cannot be seen with the naked eye. It has to be processed. It's totally invisible. It has to be processed either by physical means or chemically. And that's done either by the crime scene individuals on the scene of a crime, or the scene is done in the Miami-Dade Police Department's Lakeland Center.
So that's the kind of thing that someone like Kenyon Watkins, who just left the courtroom, might do when they get out to process a crime scene?
That's correct.
Such things as dusting?
Dusting for fingerprints, providing that the item is conducive for latent prints.
And do they try to bring you anything that they've dusted that they think might have some rich detail in it?
Yes, that is when we come in as a support unit. We will receive this physical evidence from the individuals, and we will conduct the examinations in order to see if we can come up with any latent prints that can be useful in the investigation of the case.
And the ultimate determination about whether a print is of sufficient quality that it can be compared to another human being, who does that? Who makes that kind of judgment?
It's the latent examiner. That's where the comparisons are made, providing that the ink standards are available.
So is that someone like you?
That's correct.
As opposed to someone like Technician Watkins, who's looking for anything that might be close to send it on to someone like you?
That's correct. His responsibility is to pick up any physical evidence of the scene of the crime. He will then turn over the physical evidence to the latent examiner, and the latent examiner at that time will do an evaluation, determine at that time that if that physical evidence can be used for any comparison purposes.
Does a person leave a latent fingerprint of sufficient quality that it can be compared to another human being every time they touch an object?
No, sir.
What kinds of factors might affect that?
Well, the factors are very simple. The area where the fingerprint is, or should I say, the latent print is looked for, it has to be free of any foreign substance, any kind of dirt, any kind of water. If you have water on there, you're not going to be able to come up with any specific latents of comparison value. You almost have to have a unique position in order to get a good latent. If you have all of these objects against you, your chances of getting good latent would be very, very low.
So is it dependent upon the surface?
That's correct.
Is it also dependent upon such things as how the surface is touched?
That's correct.
Whether it's brushed against, what portion of the finger comes in contact with it, things like that?
It all adds up. It just unique. You need to have the unique surfaces in order to come up with a good latent to make a comparison.
So let me give you a couple of examples and let's talk about it a little bit. I'm going to pick up a box that has some gloves in it, put it back down. I'm going to walk over and sit in this chair for a moment. hands on the desk and stand back up. I'm going to walk over by James for a second. Open a drawer and close it. Can you tell me right now whether I have left any fingerprints that are of sufficient quality, any latent fingerprints that they could be compared and identified to me?
As what I've seen at this moment, the illustrations that you've mentioned, by the experience that I've had, chances of you leaving any prints of value in order to make comparison would be very low. Why is that? Is because the services, again, which is that, and I can express that very important, it's very important, they're not conducive for fingerprints. The table itself is rough in nature. The chair itself is leather. The armrest is made out of maybe hard plastic. The wood finish itself is not smooth. So the chances of you actually getting any good labels on those would be very, very low.
Regardless of the surface, are you able to tell just from a person touching it whether they're going to leave a print of sufficient quality for identification purposes?
No, sir.
So let's talk a little bit about the evidence from the scene of the homicide of Sean Taylor. Were you the latent fingerprint examiner for the investigation concerning the homicide of Sean Taylor?
I was, sir.
And did you process, were items forwarded to you for processing?
They were, sir.
Such things as master bedroom door, boxes, screens, casings that were found on the location, machete, shoe boxes, screens, vent covers, other items that were sent to you for processing?
They were, sir.
And what kinds of different ways did you use to process those things?
The primary thing that was used on most of it, if all of them were primarily used and exposed to the 2 or 3 different methods that were used to try to get latent value in order to make a comparison. Some of the paper items that were submitted to me are used an anhydrous process, which is a chemical process that will react to the amino acid of our sweat within our fingers. Some of the items that were also processed, which is the super glue exposure. That was done in some of the items as well. And of course, the most basic one that was used was the simple brushing method. And that is the most common one that is used in law enforcement throughout our crime scene personnel.
All right. Did you also receive standard fingerprint inked cards from Charles Wardlow, Benja Hunt, Jason Mitchell, Tim Brown, and Eric Rivera?
I did, sir.
Were you able to find any fingerprints that matched those people in the items that you processed?
After the comparisons were made against these individuals, they were compared with negative results.
All right. Does that mean that those individuals never entered the house of Sean Taylor?
No, sir.
Were there some, like a handful of prints of value?
Yes, sir.
Were some of those fingerprints of value from people who resided in the house who gave elimination fingerprints?
They were, sir.
So what are elimination fingerprints?
Elimination prints is very, very simple. It's a set of prints that are obtained by our fingerprint examiners of individuals that have access to that particular place at that given moment. Usually it's the homeowner, children of the house, the lady of the house, anybody that has access to that area, you're going to be fingerprinted. That's going to be considered elimination prints.
All right. Did some of the prints of value that you observed belong to people who gave elimination fingerprints?
They did, sir.
Are there some additional areas of ridge detail that were not of sufficient quality for identification purposes?
There was, sir.
How many roughly?
There were 3 that did not have enough ridge detail there.
From which area are you referring to?
The ones that were not of value, some of them came from the contract of the car.
Well, we're not on the car quite yet, so we're going to focus on the house for just a second. All right, so were there areas where there were, what's a smudge?
Smudge is more or less somewhere where individuals touched but did not leave no ridge detail there. It just merely shows a mark. They're stating that there was a print on there, but not enough ridge detail there to make a positive identification.
So throughout the items that came from the house and the areas that you processed, were there numerous areas where there were just smudges?
Yeah, there was a few there that were just smudges on the house itself.
So are you able to say with 100% certainty whether the person who left that smudge, which is just a little brush of some detail, was Eric Rivera, Charles Wardlow, Venja Hunt, Tim Brown, or Jason Mitchell? Could they have been the people who left the smudges?
Yes, sir.
But you can't say that with certainty, can you?
I cannot tell you, no.
All right, let's talk about the handful of other prints that you had that were of value from the house, that were not elimination prints from people that were known to be in the house. Could they be from anyone who was ever in that house?
Yes, sir.
I mean, a shoebox, for example. If you found some prints of value off of a shoebox and it didn't come from the defendant or the other names that I mentioned, and it didn't come from someone who gave an elimination print, could it have come from the store clerk who touched the box?
Could be the store clerk, could be the individual where the box originated from, where the shoes were made. It could be a number of persons.
All right, and does that go for all the other items and areas in the house? That could be from anyone, any worker, anybody who was ever in that house?
That's correct, sir.
Let's talk about a couple of other things. The master bedroom door, did you process that?
Yes, sir.
Did you find any prints of value on that?
Yes, sir.
All right, were they consistent with an elimination person?
No, sir. It still remains unidentified. That was a bathroom door.
All right, well, I had asked about the master bedroom door.
Okay. No, this is the bathroom door.
All right, so with regard to a bathroom door where you have a print of value, could that be anyone who was ever in the bathroom?
Correct, sir.
All right, with regard to the master bedroom door, did you process that?
I did, sir.
Did you find any prints of value?
None at all, sir.
Does that mean that no one kicked the door in?
No, sir.
I'm not talking about fingerprints, not shoe prints.
Okay, that's correct.
All right, does that mean that Sean Taylor never entered or left that master bedroom door, or Jackie Garcia Haley?
No, sir.
That just means that you didn't find any prints of sufficient quality for fingerprinting? What does that mean then?
It means that there's no way that I can come up with any labels of value on there to make a composite identification.
All right. Did you also process tools that were provided?
I did.
And what tools were they? Do you remember?
The tools were the a 12-inch stainless steel kitchen butcher knife that was a tool, a Tramontina machete with a black handle, and a hammer, processed a,
All right, did you find any prints of value on those 3 items?
none whatsoever, sir.
All right, does that mean that no one ever touched those items?
None, sir.
Let's talk about some items that came from the SUV car. Did you receive some latent cards from Wayne Kenyon Watkins?
I did, sir.
And were there, so you received, what, 4 cards?
There were 4 latents, that's correct.
Okay. Were any of value?
Yes, sir. Out of the 4 latents that were submitted, 2 were evaluated to be a comparison value.
All right. Were they the fingerprints of Mr. Rivera, Mr. Wardlow, Mr. Hunt, Mr. Mitchell, Mr. Brown?
No, sir.
Could they be the prints of anyone who ever touched that car, including the rental people? Whose prints could they potentially be?
It can be anybody's prints. It's a rental car. It's somebody that probably could have touched it at any given time. The people that do the washing of the vehicle, the people that handle the car prior to those individuals. It can be anybody.
Did you also discover prints that were not of value on the latent cards?
No, sir.
Let's talk about the other items that came from the car, the paper items. Did you process those items?
I did, sir.
Envelope, business card, manual cover?
That's correct, sir.
Any prints of value?
I came back with 2 latents of value. As of today, those 2 latents still remain unidentified.
All right. Who could have left those fingerprints?
Again, it could be anybody. It could be anybody from where the vehicle was manufactured, somewhere around the place where the vehicle was assembled. That vehicle could have been processed and touched by people that work for the agency, people that went ahead and became involved renting the vehicle, studying the vehicle. The list can go on and on, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, so in sum, the fact that you did not find actual fingerprints of comparison value of Eric Rivera, Tim Brown, Charles Wardlow, Benja Hunt, Jason Mitchell, does that mean they were never, necessarily mean they were never in the car or in Mr. Taylor's home?
No, sir.
I beg your pardon?
No, sir.
That's all the questions I have this time.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you, sir.
Be nice. How long were you a fingerprint examiner for Miami-Dade?
Together, sir, I was there for almost 30 years.
And how many, we don't need an exact number, but about how many fingerprint examiners does Miami-Dade have in this point?
At this point, we, as of 6 months ago, we had about 16 latent examiners that we had. If I'm not mistaken, about 16.
Okay. And I guess I have to admit I'm a little confused. If it's so extremely difficult to obtain any evidence from crime scenes of fingerprints, why does Miami-Dade employ so many fingerprint examiners?
We remain the best. There's something that we always pick out the right people to do the job, to conduct the examinations that should be conducted at every crime scene and every investigation that we have.
Well, is it fair to say that Miami-Dade employs so many fingerprint examiners because they hope to obtain evidence that they can use to prove guilt of the defendant in the case?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, and if they didn't think they could do that, they wouldn't spend so much money on fingerprint examiners, right?
It's the same amount of personnel we've had for years and years, sir.
Okay. Well, how many times do you think you've testified in a criminal trial?
Oh, gosh.
I know I'm putting you on the spot there.
Yeah. I would have to say, sir, roughly that I know of. I know I've testified in practically every federal judge in the federal branch here in Dade County. I would have to say maybe between 150, 200 times, sir.
Okay. And if you can, could you tell us the majority of those times, were you called by the state or the defense?
I was called both times, sir.
But I'm asking for majority.
Oh, no, it was the state.
Okay. Or the U.S. government being the prosecutor in federal court, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And when you're called as a witness by the U.S. government and the state, was it fair to say it's probably about 90+% of the time that you're a prosecution witness?
Correct, sir.
And is it fair to say that during that probably 90% of the time that you're a prosecution witness or above, you're called to identify prints that match the defendant from a crime scene or a weapon?
Well, not at all times.
Not at all, but the majority.
It's in the middle of the answer.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, not at all times. I testify there on processing techniques, things of that sort. But not at all times. When I do testify, I testify on the identification of latent prints.
Okay, and again, I'm not. Obviously, you're going to testify whatever is the truth, whatever you found, whether it's helpful or not, right?
Correct.
But I'm saying the majority of the time when you have been called, have you been there to render an opinion?
Correct, sir.
That you've already found that there is a print of value that matches a defendant in the case?
Correct, sir.
Okay. So it's not unusual that the prints of value are recovered that match defendants on incriminating evidence?
That's correct.
Okay. And you use tools like vaporized glue, glue mist, which were attached to a cloth or paper substance,
yes, sir,
to reveal a latent print, right?
Correct.
Do you use that technique in this case?
No, sir.
Okay. But you did have some items that were non-metal and non-glass items like receipts and paperwork, right?
Yes.
Okay. What about ninhydrin? Can you tell us what that is?
Ninhydrin is just a chemical process that primarily is used on paper. And it reacts, as I mentioned to the ladies and gentlemen, that the chemical process will react to the amino acid, which is the sweat within our fingers.
And some people, are you familiar with the term secretors and non-secretors?
I am, sir.
Okay. A secretor is somebody that would tend to leave behind some oil or sweat from a fingertip, right?
Correct, sir.
And a non-secretor tends not to.
Correct, sir.
So non-secretor is lucky if they're a defendant. They're less likely to leave prints behind, right?
Correct, sir.
Is the vast majority of the population secretors?
I've never conducted a study to answer that, sir. I do know that there's some people that are secretors and some other people that don't. They are not secretors. It's just, I'm afraid I can't answer that.
Okay. Can you answer this? If a fingerprint, if I laid down a fingerprint on this hard surface and nobody touched it, and I can actually see the print right there. Okay. I guess I'm a secretor. Nobody touched it, wiped it, messed with it. This room was locked up. That would stay there a very long time, wouldn't it?
Well, again, sir, remember, as I mentioned it to you before, it just depends on the quality of the surface itself. Just because you might see a fingerprint on it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be able to lift it or read it because of the actual surface. If you have a good surface, such as clean and more or less like free from dirt, free from rain, anything like sunlight, it can be done.
Well, let me ask the question in reverse. Let's say you do find a good surface and you find a really nice latent print of value. I'm not asking about comparing it to anyone. It's a nice print for comparison. Are you able to tell how long it's been there?
No, sir.
Without any other information?
No, I can't.
So it could have been left yesterday or a year before?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Did you personally try to lift latent prints from the car?
No, sir.
So another technician lifted the prints at the direction of the case agent and then forwarded them to you to compare?
Detective Watkins took that responsibility.
Okay. So you're only comparing what you're asked to compare?
No, I was asked to evaluate the latents.
Sorry, I'm using a wrong term. To evaluate, you're only evaluating the prints that are sent to you?
That's correct.
You didn't make a decision as to what areas would be good to print?
No, sir.
Okay. And that's not your job responsibility?
Well, I do process vehicles at times, but not at this particular time, no.
Okay. And the casings, did you actually attempt to lift latent prints from the shell casings, or you again were just given what was pulled off the casings?
No, the chances of getting or processing casings is done on an everyday basis in our department, which was done in this particular case, but no latents.
But sorry, no.
No latents were picked up on.
And you personally weren't able to pick latents up on them?
That's correct.
Okay, so you processed the casings yourself. Was there any handling of the casings done before they were forwarded to you?
Before I got a hold of them,
Yes.
I can only mention to you at the time that I received the latents that the casings were not contaminated in any such way at the time that I signed them, but they were not exposed.
Well, if we can expand on that a little bit more, the term contamination. How do you store, I'm saying if you were collecting evidence at a crime scene, let's say you're in a different role, you're going to collect casings to be sent along to a latent print examiner. How are you going to store those casings? Collect them and store them so that you make sure not to leave a print of your own or smudge an existing print or destroy evidence.
I can only tell you how I received physical evidence.
You can't tell me how it's proper to do that as a latent print examiner?
Well, I do not respond to scenes, but I can tell you how I received them.
Okay, well, tell us that.
They come in a little cardboard box, and they're sealed, and they have the initials of the detective. They're put in a paper bag. Paper bag is sealed again and is delivered to me via proper receipt.
Okay. Now, I was asking you, it's okay, so you don't know how they were handled when they were put in that box, but you know when the box came to you, it was properly sealed and it was in the box, they're supposed to come in.
Correct, sir.
And initialed by the person who collected it.
Correct, sir.
So we wanted to ask what happened before that we asked that person.
That's correct.
Chain of custody, that's how it works, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, what about the home? Did you ever actually go to the home where the homicide occurred?
No, sir.
Okay, so I would go through the same series of questions, a little shortcut. You don't make any decision regarding what were good areas to print.
Again, sir, I was not at the scene, and so I did not make any decision.
Do you know if you were afforded any latents from windows?
Objection, son.
Okay, all right. given prints to compare to eliminate Mr. Taylor, obviously, and his girlfriend, right?
Correct.
So those come up, boom, they're out. And then you're given prints of people the state considers to be possibly involved in the offense to see if there's evidence against them, right?
Correct, sir.
So an unknown print would be any other print, right?
Sure.
So is it fair to say that an unknown print could also be somebody who committed the offense who has not been identified as a suspect by the state?
Possible.
Okay. The unknown prints that you did recover, were they run through the APHIS system?
They were, sir.
Anything come up?
None, sir. Not as of during the time that was done. They were done, they were run, and nothing came back.
Do you know if they've been run since then?
I know as of 8 months ago when I was there, they were run.
Okay. So that means that the unknown prints didn't come back to somebody who's in the system with a criminal record.
That's correct, sir.
Now, all of the analysis that's done by you, that was done by you in this case, was done at the direction of the case agent. Is that correct?
Can you repeat that again, sir?
All of the analysis that was done by you in this case was done at the direction of the case agent, Juan Segovia. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
No further questions, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Few questions. Whatever unknown prints are there, I mean, again, are they anybody who was ever in that house?
No, sir.
I beg your pardon?
No.
In other words, the prints of value that you have, that you don't know precisely whose prints they are, could they have come from anyone who ever visited or worked in that house?
Objection asked and answered.
Yes, sir.
Is it fair to say that crime scene experts like...
Objection leading.
Let me hear the question.
Who's responsible at the crime scene generally for determining what areas might best yield fingerprints of value?
It's the responsibility of the detective that is processing the scene to make that determination.
Does that include someone like Mr. Watkins?
That's correct.
And besides just looking at scenes and processing them, in this particular case, were whole objects sent to you so you personally could process them?
They were, sir.
And again, when someone touches an object, do they sometimes leave prints of value and sometimes not?
That's correct, sir.
And if people are wearing gloves, are they likely to leave prints of value at all?
Chances are it's not going to happen.
That's all the questions I have.
All right, thank you, sir. You may be excused. City Attorney's real quick, side register, schedule, Sean.
I'm sorry?
See you outside real quick. All right. Stretch, State, call your next witness. We'll take a break after this one.
The state calls Elviro Munoz.
Follow me, please. You stand in front of the clerk. Raise your right hand. He'll swear you in. You can have a chair, seat on the chair once I finish.
Do you swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, Philip, see there, sir, there's a microphone in that, we can all hear you, and when you're ready, Mr. Bravo, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Could you please state your name for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
Albedo Munoz.
What is your occupation?
I'm a regional investigator for the state of Florida, Department of Transportation.
And who is your employer?
Turnpike, Florida's Turnpike.
Would that be the Florida Turnpike Enterprise?
Yes.
And what sort of business does the Florida Turnpike Enterprise engage in?
Well, the department I'm in, it's tolls, toll revenues. Turnpike Enterprise, as it's a commuter road for the motorists driving through the state of Florida.
Is the Florida Turnpike Enterprise responsible for maintaining and operating all of those various SunPass tolls that we see along the highways?
Yes, they are.
What do your duties as an investigator include?
Violation images, security for the Department of Transportation on Turnpike, loss prevention, toll collector, theft, or anything that has to do with security aspects of the Turnpike.
Do your duties include any responsibility for records concerning SunPass toll violations?
Yes.
No. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we issue the records for any requests that are issued through, requested by SunPass.
When subpoenas are sent to the Florida Turnpike Enterprise making certain requests for information or SunPass toll violations, do you respond to those requests?
Yes, yes we do. Our department does.
And you're responsible for retrieving those records?
Correct.
How does your department keep a record of vehicles that violate SunPass tolls?
They're stored electronically from the toll equipment. It's sent to a computer and it's stored in the application, or no, in the computer itself, VPS.
Is there an image and a record that's taken when a toll violation occurs?
Correct.
And is that image and record, are they created at the time of the violation itself?
Yes.
Where are the records stored exactly?
In a system called VPS, which is Violation Processing Services systems.
And is that the system that you access in order to comply with subpoena requests to provide documentation?
Yes.
Were you served with a subpoena, in this case requiring the production of records for any vehicles that violated the SunPass toll on November 26, 2007 from 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. on I-75 and/or Alligator Alley in Broward and Collier County?
I'm sorry, the beginning of the question was?
Were you served with a subpoena requiring you to provide records of any vehicles that violated the SunPass toll on that date and in that area?
Yes, I was.
What did you do in response to that request?
I went ahead and I viewed the violations for the request, which was Alligator Alley, on the date, logged into VPS to see if there were violations at the time, and there was.
Show the council states 5J for identification.
There's no objection, Judge.
All right, be admitted.
Stated admits 5J into evidence.
This is the modified identification, 5J now becomes State's Exhibit number 76.
Take a look at the 2 pages in State's Exhibit 76. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir, this one.
How do you recognize it?
Because this is a printout that we would get on display for VPS on a violation search.
Would that tell you if there was a particular SunPass toll violation on November 26th of 2007 and what time?
Yes, it would.
Did it indicate that there was a violation on that date?
Yes, it did.
At what time did the violation occur?
At 02:42, 10 a.m.
Okay, would that be 2:42 in the morning?
Correct.
Does it indicate the location of the violation?
Yes, it does.
I can could have you step down for just a second. Taking a look at the record in front of the jury, does the record provide any information about the license plate that's on the particular vehicle that committed the violation?
Yes, it does.
Where is that?
Column here would be plate number New Jersey BNS57G.
And where does it indicate the time of the violation?
There.
And finally, where does it indicate the location of the plaza?
Plaza.
You may step down. In addition to the written printout, is there also a record of any images that are captured at the time of the violation by the cameras?
Yes, there is.
And is that part of the record that you retrieved in response to subpoena requests?
Yes, I did. Yes, it is.
The defense states 5K for identification. Showing you states exhibit 5K for identification. You recognize that?
Yes.
How do you recognize it?
This is an image that was provided for the Sunpass violation on November 20th, on this particular date, November 26th.
State moves 5K as evidence.
No objection.
State's exhibit marked identification 5K now becomes its exhibit number 77.
We approach.
Yes.
And again, on this particular document, it also indicates the date, time, and location of the violation.
Correct. It's done here.
And where is that?
On November 26, 2007, 2:42 a.m.
And the location?
Alligator Alley, Everglades East.
One moment. Recognize that?
The tag number, Jersey.
And is that the same photograph that was provided in the image capture of the
Yes.
Sunpass?
Yes.
Nothing further at this time.
Roxanne?
No questions, Judge.
All right. Any other excuse? Thank you. This is jury list, like 10-minute break. We'll be back here at 4 o'clock. Don't discuss the cases in anyone's presence. Don't let them discuss in your presence.
All rise. Ladies and gentlemen, you can fold your tablets down, leave them on your chair. Please make sure you have all your personal belongings, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. Outside of the other end of this hallway, outside of courtroom 47. It's the usual place. Same time, same backstage.
James, do you have any luck?
I got it.
Oh, let me see. We'll sit for just a second here. In the court file with a file stamp date of March 31st, 2010 is the original of that amended discovery exhibit with regard to Alexei Anderson.
I'm still waiting for back from Mr. Kramer.
Okay.
That'll be determined for me now.
When you hear back, we can readdress that.
He emailed me back saying he would check his file, he's in the deposition.
Okay.
Check his file.
Oh, that's fine. Let's break for 10. We'll see you in 10. I'll get an update from the state on their witnesses lined up. Wasn't your phone that was busted?
No.
Whose phone was that busted?
Yeah, I was going to ask about
He left it there. I got it.
Oh, was this? Oh, okay.
Judge, can we walk back in there and talk? They're notes, but they're all over there. Mr. Hunt's attorney, Reed, just so you know.
How you doing? Hey, David.
Oh, no, he's trying to get this.
Shawarma. When they repeated first verdict, they didn't, all the clerks go down and